found bubbles
Yeah.
in the water there at the base. The water would be flowing down into that liquid channel. So I dug a ditch and I put the polyethylene in it and I flooded that. And of course, that became an anchor for anchoring the poly.
Yeah.
Um, but when that liquid was returning, right, and a little bit of splashing, I suppose,
Yeah.
and I left it on overnight, which I didn't usually be doing. In the
Oh.
morning, yeah, I found foam, like you see, like sea foam, right? You
You
see
so you
foam.
found a foam on the surface of the water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's it.
Oh, I got it wrong. I thought you
Huh?
found foam at the nozzle.
Oh, yeah. Well, there might have been some generating of bubbles,
Yeah,
at the
up there.
nozzles,
Yeah.
and I
Both
think
probably.
I only had like PVC pipe with holes in
Yeah,
the pipe.
I
And
see.
so it's really, really cheap
Right.
uh, kind of construction.
Right.
Uh, but the liquid would flow down,
I see.
and I think what happened probably got some protein
Yeah.
mixed in
Yeah.
with the water.
That's right.
And
Protein. Yeah.
I was using the nutrients from the chicken house. I was using the warmth of the chicken house,
Yeah.
and I was using the CO2
Yeah.
from the
CO2.
house.
Yeah.
So it was a ideal, and it was south-facing wall.
Yeah.
So it happened to be
Yeah.
um, coincidentally
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect kind of creative experience. And because I had envisioned these kind of structures, but of course I was puzzling out how to build and how to get the kind of the results that I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I was looking for those results because of lucid dreaming that I had when I was around 13,
Yeah.
12 or 13 years old.
Yeah.
So that's what was directing my work,
Yeah.
towards this this kind of structure, just feeling I could build what I saw in the
Yeah.
dreams.
Yeah. Well, this thing could directly be used in Africa. Yeah.
Yeah, the
This.
bubbles are like a cloud cover. So flip a switch and you have clouds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
The spectrum coming through the bubbles is the same as you find through clouds, because
Yeah.
of course water, just like clouds,
That's
it's
right.
it's water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what clouds do, what water does, water is opaque to the infrared spectrum, which is the heat spectrum of sunlight.
Yeah.
So that's why when we have cloud cover, we feel so cool,
Yeah.
because that spectrum is intercepted by the water
Yeah.
itself.
It's the opposite. On cloudy nights you're warmer. On clear sky nights you're
No, no,
cold.
no, no, it's not the opposite. No, no, I'm correct about this.
I, I,
Uh,
I'm pretty sure I'm correct.
no, 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 I'll explain. I'll explain, Jeff. So basically, water is opaque
Yeah.
to the whole spectrum. People think that the infrared spectrum of the sun is the same as our warm body spectrum. So all bodies emit in the invisible spectrum, which
That's right.
generally referred to as infrared. But warm bodies like our body temperature is nowhere in the same spectrum as the infrared of the sun.
No.
Okay, we're much longer wave, much cooler
That's right.
than the coolest temperature of the sun in the infrared. So if you look at the emission spectrum of the sun,
Right.
you'll see that it's a long way to then much longer wave radiation that comes from warm bodies like ours.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's happening is the Earth is warm, we are warm, and the cloud cover is absorbing and re-emitting that long wave radiation at night.
Yeah.
So when it's a cloudy night, what's doing is trapping the infrared radiation
Yeah.
and usually, if there's no clouds, that long wave IR goes right out to space, right? And we get very cold.
Yeah.
Because we're chilling. We're chilling. When the clouds are reflecting that back to us, now they're not really reflecting, right? They're absorbing
Yeah.
and re-emitting.
Re-emitting. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I was saying. And so on a cloudless night, you feel colder than on a cloudy night.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And though that is the property of the water, and
Yeah.
it's that same property. So water is opaque or absorbing to infrared, both from our bodies and from the invisible spectrum of the sun.
Yeah.
That those wavelengths, right, into the solar spectrum are also absorbed by water.
Yeah.
But in the visible spectrum, water is highly transparent.
Yeah.
There's almost no absorption and there's almost no reflection.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we get clouds don't reflect light, they refract. They refract light.
Yeah.
Because
refract.
the water is almost non-reflective. You know, that's a property of water. But, you know, scattering is done by diffraction of light. Yeah, every droplet producing, like a lens, right?
Yeah.
Moves light in all different directions.
Yeah.
So yeah, the properties of bubble tech are little known. Imagine I've been doing this for 40 years, but no university has stepped up.
That's strange.
Even to quantify, or analyze, or look at this phenomenon. Why?
Yeah.
Because it's common, and we do it with water and air. So how can you make money from it? Right?
Yeah.
This was the question was asked of me by a greenhouse manufacturer, you know, in the mid 80s, and I was expecting licensing. And a manufacturer, I spent time with them, and at the end they said no. They said they would not license. And of course, you know, I have 6 broad patents, so my patent position was very strong. You know, I had these non-disclosure, non-use agreement. So when they said, oh, they wouldn't use it, I wasn't afraid. You know, I knew they wouldn't use it because I had the very strong patent position. And my patents were being, I was managing my patents in 35 countries, by the way, in those days. So I was well funded. But anyway, they said, well, I asked them, why wouldn't you use this technology? It's enormously important to the greenhouse industry. And he simply said, how can I make money on bubbles? That's his question.
Yeah.
He said, if you can tell me how I can make money on bubbles, I'm in. He says, that's what he said.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, people just want to make money. Yeah, they can do all kinds of things to make money.
I think that was the fear, is that everyone can, this is a low tech.
Yeah, low tech.
You know, innovation that anyone can put into practice, really.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And we could have a lot of people building DIY, you know, build your own backyard unit. But, you know, basically we would expect that we will see cooperatives generating kits, and or individual entrepreneurs providing kits. And of course, that's what Aubrey and I are going to do. You know, that's our goal. We will provide these kits.
But Richard, sorry to cut in. I observed while, the other day, right? Harvey, right? Harvey sent me his newest video, reviewing his 18 years old, project. But I watched several other, videos trying to, replicate SolaRoof, structure, right? But I find one common issue, a problem.
Right.
They didn't fully understand it. and then they make things so complicated and make whoever watching, oh, this is hard to do, but actually it's very simple. So that's an example. I mean, people can turn something very simple into something so complex that a lot of people think, oh, this is too much, right, for me. For example, the bubble generator. I saw two young men, right? They're showing their way of doing things. I mean, making bubbles. Oh, it's so complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's something I think I feel strongly. Oh boy, why turning something that is so simple into so complex? Thinking that has to be complex, to build it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
yeah, that's
And
something.
sometimes people also said, "Oh, you need a very complicated soap." And I say, "Nope, no. The soap is very ordinary, very accessible. Sodium
Yeah,
lauryl
they
sulfate."
just try to,
Yeah,
hide to make it think, oh, this is, too hard.
yeah, yeah.
But that's when you make money, right? You make something you don't want anyone to replicate. That's the problem, right?
So, for example, Sergio, oh, I'll send you. I'll send you a document or an email message with some references that I've recently been supplied to, a couple people for like due diligence, purpose. And in in the document, you have um, you have the results in Europe. So, I went to Europe in 2001 from Canada, right? I went over to England first to London. And so we're living in London in 2008. Then we went to Northern Ireland. It was for a venture that was well funded, an eco kind of technology venture. But that was when the financial crisis hit Ireland very hard, so it didn't go ahead. But then I was invited to Norway. So around 2009, I was trying to figure out which way I would be going. There was an American angel investor who stepped up and was providing me with $10,000 US a month. And he committed to at least 2 years of support. And he said, okay, where should where would I want to do the technology development? And I said, well, I have an invitation from Norway. So he said, yes. He said, Norway is one of the best places. This guy, his name is John Baker, living in Salt Lake City. And so he said he knew Scandinavia, and especially he was very involved with dairy. And he knows the Swedish company, Swedish company D. Laval. It's a dairy technology company. Laval, D. Laval. Anyway, so he said, "Good, go to Scandinavia, Norway, fine." And I had introductions there, so I ended up going there. And from 2010 to 2012, I was basically living full time in Oslo, and I was supported by this angel investor. And when I arrived there, by 2010, I found another angel investor in Oslo, and this was another American. Actually, always I thought he was Norwegian because he is so bilingual, and turns out he's an American that grew up in Denmark and learned Scandinavian language and so on. And then he's an architect teaching at the University of Oslo. Anyway, it turned out he was a very wealthy guy. I didn't know that, at the time. was just a teacher. He was just a professor. Anyway, he said, "Well, I'm going back to the United States, and would you like to stay in my place because I'm not going to sell my condo, and I'm going back to Florida." I said, "Well, yeah, thank you." So I was living in downtown Oslo,
Yeah.
at his apartment, and so 2010 to 2012, with this support, from these people, we built a proof of concept project at a property called Linden. It's a company owned by the city of Drammen. Drammen is a city just to the west of Oslo. It's a good-sized city and very progressive. And so they had a company owned by the city doing all their recycling, including organic recycling. So they had large biodigester for biogas, facility there, and they're producing electricity for the city, and they would also produce the biogas for the buses, for the public transportation. So anyway, I built on that location the first operating demonstration of the SolaRoof technology in Norway. 2012, it was finished and working, and in the spring of 2012, working with that company Linden, I made a proposal to the EU called Food to Waste to Food. Food to Waste to Food, circular, right? Circular concept. And because the company, of course, was very knowledgeable and operating these biodigesters, which is the way that the cycle is closed. So it was a great place to be. The director of research of the company, Kittel Stoknes, became a good friend, basically opened the doors with the company, and gave me the location, right, the space to build. So by the summer of 2012, spring actually, we received the notice that we received the grant from the Eco Innovation Program EU, 800,000 euros grant. And it was match money type of program. So it enabled also to put up a SolaRoof project in Poland at the University of Poznan. And the documents I'll send you will show you all of these projects. Following that, the University of Poznan was operational from 2012 through to 2015, still is operational. We received a report from the operations that was established there at the University of Poznan. And the result showed from data, right, operational data, not my, claims, but operational data.
Still haven't started your
Shopify
store? What are you in?
Greenhouse that they built at the university was 58 times less than the best Dutch glass house technology. And some people said, well, wait a minute, you must mean 58% reduction of carbon footprint. No, 58 times reduced. So people would say, oh, that's impossible. You can't do that. That's way, that's unreasonable to think you could do that. I said, well, actually, it's quite expected because we're going to almost a zero carbon footprint, right? So if you go close to zero, if you get to actual zero, you'd be infinitely more. You'd be infinite times, right? But because actual data, the quantity of carbon footprint as, say, emission or loss of carbon or greenhouse gases, because actually they were looking at all greenhouse gas emissions. I said, well, comparing the data is actually showing 58 times. So that was never published publicly. The report, I'll send you this report. It was basically leaked to me through, a research friend in Norway, because by that time I was pushed out of the program, right? I was pushed out. Why was I pushed out of the program? Because these people wanted a monopoly on the technology. And I said to them, the important technology is mine. These are my patents. I did the R&D. I put millions into the research, and I've always owned the patents. And when I got to England, I dedicated them to open source, to the Creative Commons public license. Right? And terms are well established how to use the technology, right? Or who can use the technology on what basis.